gentlemen, we are back. This is a Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. Your only source for that political revolution. We've got the full panel on today. Got Luke, got Lawrence.
Yo, what up?
Yo, what up?
Yeah. And, we got a lot to talk about on the show today. Sorry we were a little late. I guess all of the swirling hurricane of BS coming out of Washington hindered us from getting here on time, as it were. Yeah.
Bureaucracy,
man.
And after one of the stories that we're going to talk about made me almost run off the road when I read it. Yeah. Like, okay, the fact that people were talking about The Rock running for president, and
libertarian, I think.
Yeah, and then in Ohio, they don't like Nina Turner, even though she's one of the most progressive women in the United States. They're trying to get Jerry Springer to run, but Kid Rock, are you kidding me? Oh my God.
Okay, so for some context with that.
Oh no. We'll touch on the story, but we're gonna, hopefully we'll touch on the story. But Lord Jesus.
Oh man. Well, I'd say we were gonna probably open with some talk about the Democratic Party. So. Yeah, that might not be a bad place to springboard from. Let's start with that article. It's local. It's about our state, our dear state of Michigan.
Lord Jesus,
and
Michigan.
Some of y'all may have already heard about this. This has been kind of big international, international news, I guess, because it involves a celebrity in American politics. So a lot of you have probably heard that Kid Rock is musing about a senatorial run. What you might not know is that this is not really a joke. And this is an article from the Detroit News by Jonathan Oosting, published on the 31st. And I'll read a little bit from it, and then we'll discuss. We'll discuss in disgust is what's probably how it's going to flow. All right. Michigan celebrity musician Kid Rock leads the potential field of Republican candidates for U.S. Senate. And if he gets into the race, might begin his campaign within striking distance of Democrat incumbent Stabenow. A new Target Insight poll of 822 likely Michigan voters showed Stabenow with a 50 to 42% lead in a hypothetical general election matchup with Kid Rock, who is flirting with a Senate run but has not yet declared his candidacy. The statewide sample conducted last Tuesday and Thursday had a margin of error of plus or minus 3.5 percentage points. And they also talk about the poll also shows Donald Trump has fairly strong support in this state, in Michigan, that is, with about 49% of likely Michigan voters. And the poll said Trump is doing an excellent or pretty good job in the White House, which is about 20 points higher than the national average. And, here's the deal. This is, I've gone to party meetings, and I've talked to people who are from Stabenow's office, and the general sense is that, a lot of them still kind of treating this like a joke. It's not. It is not a joke.
Okay. If we're going to give the margin of error the margin of error in this hypothetical matchup, that means Kid Rock is only 4.5 points behind Debbie Stabenow. I would think that maybe this is a joke if I was Debbie Stabenow as well. Forgetting the fact that Debbie Stabenow openly does not support Medicare for all. She does not support single-payer health care. That is for those who do not like a litmus test, that is not a debatable thing anymore. An overwhelming majority of Republicans want Medicare for all. Single-payer health care, even when you frame the question to the American people, should the government control Medicare, it polls at 59%. At its highest that I've seen, it's 62%. 47 to 48% of Republicans want Medicare for all, over 35% of Republicans that do not want it. Over 78% of Democrats want Medicare for all, and she's not for it. In a state that has been ravaged by the opioid epidemic, in a state that's been hammered by like the Flint water crisis, the fact that people are the number one source of bankruptcy in America is medical bills. And the fact that she's not for a system that will cover all people, give better health coverage at a lower cost in Michigan is absolutely insane. And she will be dancing around the idea that Kid Rock, who said he's an American bad ass, and he could beat her? Like, are you kidding me?
See,
Go ahead, Luke.
yeah, Kid Rock can totally beat Debbie Stabenow. She's already a lukewarm candidate as it is. People were already kind of Debbie Stabenow. She's one of those senators that doesn't make a splash. She doesn't like draw attention to herself at all. On the Hill, she doesn't. All of her office correspondence that I've received has been form letter emails. So it's one of those things where if people weren't already super hot on the idea of Debbie Stabenow, especially in a state that Trump won, Kid Rock can totally beat Debbie Stabenow, especially if she doesn't get with the message, especially and that's an indictment of the entire Democratic Party as it stands currently. Debbie Stabenow is completely complicit in the state of the Democratic Party as it stands right now. Democrats wonder why they can't win, and all you have to do is run on popular platforms that the majority of the country agrees on.
Yeah,
It literally okay. Things that because I've been seeing a lot on news, especially it was Newsweek. Newsweek just did a piece on Bernie Sanders, a hit piece on Bernie Sanders, basically calling the progressive left the alt left, basically, or whatever. And it's not like I'm laughing because I'm like, universal college. I was like, universal healthcare, free college. These things are not only feasible, these are things that are overwhelmingly popular to the American people
and have been done in other Western countries.
But I was like, besides that, I was like, just look at the argument and the framing that you could use as a talking point. The Iraq War cost $1 trillion. By conservative estimates, universal health care will cost $80 billion. Universal free college for 20 years would cost $70 billion. That's by conservative estimates. So you could literally say, for one cost of the Iraq War, we have taken away freedom of choice from the American people, and we've taken away the American dream by people going to college and being more productive citizens in America. You could use that as your framing. and say that was taken away from the American people, we're giving it back. And those are overwhelming popular ideas to the American people. Over 70% of the American people want free college. Over 60% want universal health care. This is not a discussion anymore. Either you roll with the people or you get out of office.
Or your corporate donors just keep you there because you pass legislation that benefits them. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Corporate, for the cost of one Iraq war, we could have funded a national public health care system for, 10, 15, 20 years, something like that. But then how would our military-industrial complex make money?
Oh wait, do y'all
How would they do that? Yeah.
Do you not remember? Do y'all not remember when Wolf Blitzer actually asked that to Rand Paul on CNN? When Rand Paul was saying we should not be arming Saudi Arabia or other countries that give weapons to the terrorist groups that we're fighting, and Wolf Blitzer literally asked, "What about the weapons manufacturers?"
Well, poor them. Yeah, I mean,
Why do you hate American capitalism? I mean, you hate business if you hate supplying arms to. I'm done.
Yeah, you do. No, but that's my point. Debbie Stabenow, Debbie Stabenow has an opportunity. She has an opportunity to come out and say, you know what, we're actually going to run on progressive ideas. We're actually going to fight for the American people. She has an opportunity to not show that she's a coward. And I feel like she's going to fumble the ball just like they did in the race in Atlanta or somewhere where they spent.
Oh, you're talking about Ossoff?
Yes,
Yeah.
just like with Ossoff, where they put all their money behind the neoliberal corporatist candidate, where the Democratic establishment unilaterally disarmed in all the other special elections because the other special election candidates were all Bernie-crats. They were progressives that were Bernie-crats. Ossoff was a neoliberal corporatist who supported Hillary Clinton, and they put all their money behind that person, and what happened? That person lost. Lost worse than how Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. And if she... Like I'm not gonna lie, Andy. When you sent me that and I read it, I almost wanted to slip my wrist. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was sitting there like, oh my god, no, because our country will be living in. We're already living in the movie Idiocracy.
Lawrence, at least it's not Ted Nugent. I mean,
Oh my god. Like no, it's not even that. Like okay, look, and don't get me wrong. I like Kid Rock. I like his music. I'm not even gonna lie to you and say I don't. But at the same time, I heard one of the things, like when he was interviewed on this, he spoke like a populist. He spoke like how Donald Trump did during the election. He spoke like how Bernie Sanders did during the election. He spoke like a populist. This is the thing. That message will resonate with people. And if Debbie Stabenow and the Democrat establishment do not get with the program, they will lose the Kid Rock.
I mean that's the thing, because I mean Stabenow, and look, she's done some bad things, she's done some good things, but she is part of that corporate class in the Democratic Party. And I mean, just like I'm looking at her donation record right now, and a couple of the issues that we just brought up, like Dow Chemical, that supplies a lot of the chemicals used in the military industrial machine. And also she's had a lot of ties over the years with Monsanto. She's had a role as chair of the Agriculture Committee. I would refer y'all back. If you look up the YouTube channel, we've got a really good interview with Jessica Martin where she talks about this more extensively. But essentially, she's been behind a lot of bills that stand with a large corporation to the detriment of small independent farmers. That's something that Kid Rock and his campaign could justifiably use against her. And that's going to be like the people that his campaign resonates with, too. So, you know, I'm almost like, you know, I've been part of the whole like Dementor thing since the jump. And there's some sheepishness around trying to primary Debbie Stabenow because it's like, we don't collectively have that kind of power yet. We don't have somebody with name recognition we can run. And man, if I had time machine, I would try a lot harder to find that person. Because
I would run against Debbie Stabenow. I'm not even at this point. At this point in juncture, I would run as a Justice Democrat or like because the progressive left. There's been 17 organizations on the progressive left that has now unified. That's called the People's Platform, and they are trying to get senators and congressmen to sign to support the People's Platform, and it's full of policies that the overwhelming majority of Americans agree with: getting money out of politics, free universal health care. Equal pay for women, universal free college. These are overwhelmingly popular ideas to the American people, and these are just policies that any rational human being who sees the polling would run with. Chuck Schumer, I despise, but he's smart. Even he said recently that universal health care is on the table when in the past. He ran from it. He ran from it like it was a dine and dash. You know what I'm saying? like you know what I'm saying? But even he's gotten with the times. It's a part of the hubris of the Democratic establishment and not understanding that running as we're not as bad as the Republicans or we're not them does not work when people do not know what you stand for.
Oh, and that just brings us back. That kind of brings us around to the new Democratic slogan: a better deal,
ingredients, better pizza,
better ingredients, better pizza, a better deal. Like whoever they're paying to do their PR or their branding. They're obviously getting a junk deal. They're paying too much for what they're getting.
It's a lousy deal. Lousiest deal I've ever seen.
This is the worst deal. The worst deal possibly the history of ever.
I've ever seen with this slogan. They're gonna lose. They're gonna lose.
It's real bad. Like
because they're losers.
A better deal. A better deal completely reads as, well, we're not the other guy. No, like, how about? Well, healthcare now.
One of their bumper stickers was literally, "Have you seen the other guys?"
Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous, man. When we're talking about sheepishness to primary Debbie Stabenow, we're also talking about sheepishness to take on the entire freaking Democratic establishment. I mean, it's all well and good to primary, like it's well and good to primary. Against one another in order to challenge Republican incumbents, to try to flip those seats and try to make arguments to people, progressive arguments to people who may have never heard them, or and attempt to get the information out to people and run fact-based, issue-driven campaigns because they work. It worked for Bernie Sanders. Like, let's look beyond the whole. Billions of individual donations averaging $27. Like, let's ignore that narrative. Let's talk about the fact that he ran a fact-driven, issue-based campaign during the primary, and he sliced 40 points off of Hillary Clinton's lead in, 6 months? 8 months? Yeah, 6 months. With almost no name recognition, starting from the bottom with 3% of polling. He gained recognition literally through viral marketing and the refusal to take big dollar donations. There were 4 official DNC debates before the Sanders campaign literally strong-armed the DNC into having more because he wanted to talk about the issues and to really drive home on the fact that he was prepared to run on the issues and Hillary Clinton wasn't. Because Hillary Clinton, like, as we got past the primary, we entered the general. Hillary Clinton didn't run a fact-based, issue-driven campaign. She did the same thing that 13 other Republican candidates did in the Republican primary, and she lost. Like, she did the exact same thing the establishment Republicans did against Donald Trump, and she lost. And we all called it.
There was a study, I think.
But rolling back to, like, I went off on a tangent there, but my whole point is that it's well and good to drive home the point that we are here and we're going to challenge Republicans. We also need to challenge Democrats. And that is not a destroy the Democratic Party from the inside. It's that if the old guard wants to keep their jobs, then they need to update their software. If they want to keep their jobs, then they have to get with the program of literally the biggest voting bloc America has ever seen, because I don't know, large swells of population that live for a long time do that. So,
just to add to that point, at Politicon, they were addressing this on a panel of where the Democrats should go next and what the voting bloc should be next, and a lot of them were talking about the forgotten voters, or like millennial voters, and also minority voters, forgetting the fact that minority voters will be the majority in like 2030, 2040. Like it's coming up very soon. This is the other thing that's also coming up very soon. The fact that 45,000 people still die because in a day in America because they don't have accurate health care. The fact that we have an establishment that by and large, Republican and Democrat, that only serve their financial interest instead of the will of the voters. And this is why millennials in the last election, and also multiple other groups, chose not to vote or voted third party, because if the people that's supposed to represent me only come see me every 4 years, but they spend the rest of their time doing backroom deals or openly screwing us, just like how with Cory Booker, or the pharmacy bill that Bernie Sanders is willing to pass now. When it comes to dealing with Zika, that the Army created a vaccine and treatment programs. They're going to be giving it to a pharmaceutical company. Bernie Sanders is putting legislation in, I think, either later this week or next week, to say that company that's going to be selling it needs to give the taxpayers who literally paid for the scientific advancement in the study in the research, because we gave our money to the Army, and the Army was the one that created it, that they should negotiate prices with us. But 13 Democrats have already said they're voting it down. 13. Why is that 13? Why is that 13 Democrats? I think they've already killed it. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. Why did they already kill it, or why are they voting against it? Is it because they are getting massive kickbacks by the pharmaceutical companies, by the insurance companies, by the lobbyists who have bought our politicians? Yes, this is a fact. Debbie Stabenow is also one of those people. She's not one of those type of people who's gonna come out and fight. And she might lose her seat to Kid Rock. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's no. Like, oh my God. The thing that bothers me so much about this is that it's such an easy win. This easy wins. How do you? How? You are, it's easier to run, it's easier to lose to a Republican because you will not lose your financial benefits from your pharmaceutical companies than for you to do the fight for the will of the American people. And we've seen this time and time again, and establishment Democrats, just like establishment Republicans, do this all the time. The difference is Americans, by large, are now much more aware of it happening. And now, since we're much more aware of it happening, groups like Brand New Congress, Justice Democrats, Democratic Socialists, and other left-wing organizations are now all coming together and saying, if you do not do your job, we will replace you. That's Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, that's Joe Manchin. That's all of these corporatist Democrats who say that they're resisting, but they're doing everything not to.
Yeah, like they're resisting in what manner? We're going to talk about this later in the show, but everyone except 2 senators voted on the recent sanctions, which again goes back to uplifting industry. There's a big component of that where it's going to basically help bolster the profits of American energy corporations working in that part of the world. And sidetracking from that just a little bit, but with Stabenow, and here's what I've seen from her, especially since the election last year. She's been pivoting herself to the left, and especially at
baby steps.
When I was at the Democratic or the Michigan Democratic Party convention in Detroit a couple months ago, she was really trying to get on the side of all the Bernie people. So she's certainly a lot more savvy and a lot less oblivious than, say, like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, or Tom Perez. That said, is that going to be enough, though? Because, it's one thing to say, I stand with these ideas and I want to do them. It's another to be full-throated about them when it's really going to count.
I have a quick question on that. Was she... Because I wasn't there, but I heard mixed reviews on some of her stuff. Was she, when asked about Medicare for All stuff, did she pull a Debbie Wasserman Schultz and say, "I'm for it in theory"? Like
more or less.
More or less. Okay, it's that kind of thinking that's going to get you kicked out of office. It's that kind of thinking that will make you lose to Kid Rock. In Michigan, and not just in Michigan, across the country, if Democrats do not wake up and wake up and smell the coffee, that the fact that the Democratic Party celebrated because they killed Trump care. Newsflash, people, that bill had 17% approval rating in the country. 17% approval rating. If you are celebrating the fact that you beat something that had 17% approval rating, you have the lowest standards of success. Let me also remind you that they lost to a bill, to the Internet Privacy Bill. The Internet Privacy Bill had 6% approval rating, and they lost to that. Trump, I think, didn't Trump sign that into law? The Internet Privacy Bill that 6% of the country wanted. I think Congress passed it. Like it happened months ago.
Yeah.
When you are looking for the low-hanging fruit, but you're not willing to actually climb up to the tree or try to get a ladder and go up the tree to get the much better fruit, then you're really not that hungry. You're just trying to wait for stuff to fall on your head. What that means is that you're not willing to put in the work to get better, which is what the Democratic Party problem is. Now, Debbie Stabenow, I hope if you are listening to this, go read the Justice Democrats platform. Go read the platform that the People's Platform. Run on those issues. Support those issues. The majority of the country will support you. The majority of Michigan voters will support you. But if you don't, I'm not saying that you're going to get primaried in 2018. But if you don't, you might lose to Kid Rock. Kid Rock, who had a short person as his hype man, who used to try to be a rapper, who now sings remixes of Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, come on, son. Come on, son. Get out of here with this garbage. Like, come on, son. Debbie, get your life together. Democrats tell me, get your life.
Yeah, get it together.
Get your cousins, son.
Listen to those young millennial folks, because if you don't, like my biggest thing is I think Stabenow's at least got enough strategic wit to understand where she needs to go and whether or not she can actually go there. I mean, that's such a hard thing to say. I think just judging from her voter record, her donor record, that is. I think I could see her coming around to single parent. She really needs to do that. My concern is, like, if the Republicans are probably going to put some, like, clever strategists in there with Kid Rock who understood kind of what the Trump campaign was about. And if they're able to dig up, these certain things from Debbie's past, particularly like the Monsanto stuff, that it could be a career killer. It really could be. So,
but also to add to that, like, one of the things that the Democrats were talking about at Politicon is, not just talking to millennial voters, but voters of color, poor working class white people, and all those things. All those type of voters that left the party or did not vote in droves for Hillary Clinton. What's something that they all agree on? Universal health care. Medicare for all. What's one thing that they all agree on? Free college and tuition. Trying to cut back on student loan debt. What's one thing that that a lot of them also agree on? Raising the minimum wage. Because 50% of the country makes less than $30,000 a year, and the majority of people that make less than $30,000 a year are single mothers, are women. Are two-thirds of that number is women. So again, you can run on these issues. But if you're running on a pro-corporate issue or a pro-Wall Street issue, then you are going against the will of the American people. Because the will of the American people, but Republicans and Democrats, want to raise taxes on the rich. That's overwhelming. That's an overwhelming majority of Americans want that.
And an extremely underwhelming minority of politicians want that as well.
because it's gonna hurt their financial pocketbooks. I get it, I understand it, but your job as a representative is to represent the American people. That's your job. Number one, you're not doing your job. When you're not doing your job and you work at McDonald's and your number one job was to flip burgers or to make fries or to clean the bathroom, when you're not doing your job, you get fired.
Yeah. And, keep in mind, like, these poll numbers, too, like, it's at 50-42 right now. What happens when Kid Rock actually starts campaigning? And it's probably going to be, like concerts and stuff, too. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And
the Sweet Home Werewolves of London at campaign rallies. He can just use his own music, man. He doesn't even have to.
There you go.
There gonna be no like artist squabbles with Kid Rock. He's just gonna use his own music for his campaign. He's just gonna write his own campaign music. It's gonna be a clown show.
Oh my god!
But yeah. So, like, what? And to be fair, I'm not saying like Kid Rock doesn't know anything about politics. He's an articulate dude, but when he starts hitting the ground with this populist rhetoric, the other side is going to need something to say to it. And I don't want to discount there is an independent in the mix named Marcia Squire. She's kind of like a left-leaning independent, but her campaign really hasn't gained all that much traction. I'm not even sure if it's actually still an ongoing campaign. So yeah, the solution is either we get Kid Rock or Debbie needs to run to the left as fast as she can.
You cannot be fake populism, or with Kid Rock's case, it might be actually real populism with neoliberal buffoonery, with neoliberal cliches and platitudes. We have seen this movie too many times.
Too many times.
We know how this movie ends. Like, Lord Jesus. Like, I understand. Okay, for people who have seen Get Out, I understand that the Democratic Party's in the sunken place right now. we're trying to wake you. We're trying to get you out. We are trying to get you out. The left. The populist left, the Bernie Sanders wing, the Justice Democrat wing, even the third party, Green Party, Independents, Democratic Socialists, they're not trying to destroy you. They're trying to help you so we do not end our existence. Like, we're trying to help you. Now, either you're going to, again, another movie reference, the progressives are the captains of the ship now. Either you are going to follow, either you will follow, or you will get off the ship.
Get off, please.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think they'd rather go down with the sinking ship.
Oh, Bernie said it.
Yeah,
the Democratic establishment would rather. They would not mind being on the Titanic as long as they get first class seats, and they have proven that time and time again. Like, it makes no sense when Nancy Pelosi or David Wasserman Schultz go to town halls and their constituents are asking them, support universal health care. Why are you not supporting this? And they're asking them legit questions. The dodges that they do are better than the ones in the Matrix, and they dodge those questions like they are the one. Yeah. You understand? You understand me? The thing is, no, like if your job first and foremost is to represent your constituents. Over 78% of Democrats support universal health care. Over 69 or 70% of them want free college and tuition. In a discussion.
Sorry, I just imagine like Tom Perez or John Podesta in a gi is just like, and when they want you to say something of substance, say something that travels through the air, like and flows like water, and they're like, "What? That doesn't make any sense." No, it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, while we're talking about positions that the Democratic Party could get behind that are just overwhelmingly popular, we could also talk about the push to legalize marijuana and end drug prohibition and ending the drug war and stops wasting needless money on programs that don't work, that are proven that they don't work. These like the drug war was started by Nixon. It was honestly, to jump back, Nixon started the drug war. It was a Republican effort and it didn't work. It was a bad conservative idea. We need to stop it.
Oh, that's another thing too, is Mr. Rock, being that he said like, "Oh, I'm a libertarian who's going to run as Republican." If Debbie doesn't get behind legalizing marijuana and Kid Rock does,
she's done.
She's done.
She's done. It's done.
Wait. Hold on. Just for two things for people who may not understand. The reason why Nixon created the war on drugs was to lock up the liberal left, who they called hippies, and black people, because they wanted to lock up their political opponents. That's what a Nixon aide said, and since then, the American taxpayer and America by and large has spent over $1 trillion. $1 trillion on the war on drugs. We have locked up, we are number one in people in prison per capita in the world. We have locked up more people for nonviolent drug offenses than any other country in the world. With $1 trillion, do you know what you could get in America? Universal health care, free college and tuition. We could put money into our failing infrastructure that gets a grade of D+ with $1 trillion. Priorities, people. In a country that's supposed to be about freedom and civil liberties, You're telling me that a Republican can steal the idea of legalizing marijuana from a Democrat that's supposed to believe in freedom and liberty when opiates have killed more people in America than car crashes this year. Alcohol has killed more people than marijuana has. Tobacco has killed more people than marijuana has. And you're telling me that a Republican can steal this away from a Democrat. That is scary.
I mean, the short answer to that question is yes. But then again, Michigan was supposed to go for Hillary Clinton and wound up voting Trump, just like how Michigan was in the primary. Michigan was supposed to go to Clinton and wound up going to Bernie Sanders. It's one of those things where, like we've beat this subject to death, and it's ridiculous that we still have to keep talking about it. The fact is, Democrats lose all the time because they don't know what they're doing, and not in this new environment. They don't. There was a time. There was a time when they did know what they were doing. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing anymore. They don't know what they stand for anymore. They've tried to, as soon as money started flooding the political sphere, they went, oh crap, we can't out fundraise the Republicans.
Well, and I want people, listeners at home, I know, we talk about this a lot, but something you don't hear too often, even in a lot of alternative media. It's like, if you look at it from a more broad historical perspective, all this really is, it's the pendulum of leftist politics swinging back to that New Deal, progressive tenor that the Democratic Party was in for a long period. Now, they still had their problems, and they still had their issues with imperialism. Let's not forget, what FDR allowed to happen to, with Japanese internment camps, the Tuskegee experiments that he greenlit. So, again, not perfect, but at least economically, these policies benefited the American people in these more kind of democratic, socialistic ways. And what they're failing to grasp is Bill Clinton's 90s corporate Democrat hard reset, that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't. And what they need to do is, again, there's a passage from there's this great book called "This Is an Uprising," and it talks about kind of the dynamics of movements and how they gain momentum. And one of the passages in there that really struck me was, a leadership within a failing activist group would rather retain that power inside that group than strengthen the power of the group itself. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the Democratic Party. All signs, blaring red lights are telling them which direction it needs to go. Bernie was, if anything, he was just kind of the culmination of a lot of pre-existing trends amongst both left-leaning people and a lot of Democrats themselves. And this abject failure to really see the forest through the trees, even despite the fact that they're starting to come around on a couple of policy planks, which is good. But as we'll talk about in a few minutes, too, they're still really missing a lot of the forest for the trees. And it's going to come to the point where this is not optional. And that's what they keep thinking. If they just keep tweaking it, so that they're trying to figure out a way to make America neoliberal again, and that ain't gonna work. It's Bernie is he changed things. There's no going back. To quote the Joker, but we're not going back to that old paradigm. And the longer the Democrats try to keep us in it, while the Republicans are basically taking that same economic ethos and are just going full pillage and burn with the operation. People smell that. They understand that. They're not going to go, it's like, well, I would rather have a house that's, made of, that has gasoline all over it than one that's currently on fire. No, people are not down with that choice. And, that's really where we're at. So, like, senators like Debbie Stabenow, I would say, one, if she'd gotten primaried by a Bernie-crat, I would not be so nervous about this at this point. Yeah, like I said, she's gonna have to run to the left, which honestly I don't know if she's capable of. Simply just thinking about her financial entanglements and her track record, which again plays directly into the kind of populist playbook that somebody like Kid Rock would use, and totally exploits all of her weaknesses.
So yeah, get ready for Senator Kid Rock. Yeah, no, I know. I do have hope because I'm just a masochist on this, but I believe that someone who's been in politics as long as Debbie Stabenow has been understands when you need to move. And hopefully she's smart enough to understand this. I'm pretty sure she is. But another thing, Debbie, if you're listening to this is a great strategy session for you. Another thing you could run on, Flint, Michigan. Michigan. There's no reason why the $100 million that Obama was given to Flint, and the fact that Rick Snyder right now still controls Flint, still controls and oversees everything that Flint does right now, and how democracy has been taken away from people and from the people who've been poisoning them. And the fact that she could say, this is what happens when Republicans run our state. Not only are people poisoned, people died. There's been, I think, 20 cases, over 20-something cases of people catching Legionnaire's disease. I know 15 have, I know hundreds have been, hundreds of children, thousands of children have been, has higher lead levels in Flint. They still have high lead levels, and they're still dealing with the condition. This is a layup. If you have never seen a layup, the fact that you could say, this is what happens when Republicans run our country, people die. People literally died. And people are literally suffering because of a choice that they've made, and democracy has been stolen from the people of Flint, Michigan. And I will represent everyone in the state like they were from this district. I will fight for you, and I will not abandon you like how everybody else have. That's an easy way to do it and actually stand behind it.
Yeah, and like I would also say too, like be honest. Be like, I am from the old guard, but I want to preserve, or help carry this torch, or at least have an understanding that one of the big problems with the Clinton campaign is she just had a terrible problem with just insignificant lies that didn't make any sense to be told when people have the internet. They can fact check these things immediately. So Debbie Stabenow,
are you telling me that she wasn't under sniper fire in Bosnia?
Yeah.
No.
What?
Wait. She wasn't for. Wait. Are you telling me that Hillary Clinton is not for free and open trade borders? Oh wait, she didn't vote for the Panama trade deal when we knew that the Panama trade deal was just a.
She stood strong against the TPP despite negotiating a lot of it.
Anyway,
but okay, so that is a dead horse. But I brought it up to illustrate this point. Any so-called establishment Democrat that's running needs to recognize that they can't just stretch the truth like that in front of people and get away with it. I think if anything, the 2016 election should have been a big case in point when it comes to that. So when these issues do come up, when somebody points out like her record on Monsanto or where she's getting her money from, it can't be like obfuscation or buzzwords. It's got to be like, yes, this is how I did it, but this is how all politicians were doing it until last year, and just needs to be sincere and open about like, this is my career, this is my mistakes, this is what I've learned, this is what I'm changing my mind on, this is what I want to do, and be sincere about it, because if if she doesn't follow through on that, if that just ends up being a bunch of empty campaign rhetoric, that'll make it that much easier for a Kid Rock type to win in 2020.
Yeah, pretty much. That's enough said.
All right, I think we're gonna take a little break. When we come back, we're going to hop into some more discussion.
I'm actually got to dip out.
All right.
But I will be back next week. I do want to do shameless plug.
Yeah.
I'm hosting an event next weekend, next Saturday, August 12th. It's a dance competition. It's called Rolling Styles 2.
Oh, yeah.
The fundraiser, it's a fundraiser, and the money that a portion of the proceeds that we raise will be going to an organization called Flint Kids. If you are upset about the Flint water crisis like I am, there's an organization called Flint Kids. They are helping children who have been affected by the water crisis. You can donate yourself. You can come to my event and help and donate, or just come and have fun. August 12th, it starts at 3 o'clock. It probably won't end until 2 in the morning because there's going to be an after party and whatever. But Flint Kids is an amazing organization. Please check out their website. Please help them out any way they can. I love y'all both, brothers, but I do have to dip out.
All right. So are you sure you got to head out right now? Can I ask you like one more thing?
No, I can stay for like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. So, I did want to bring up, so there was, Democracy Now! Recently had a guest on, and this really kind of piqued my curiosity. It was talking about the way that the Democratic Party, okay, so some of their economic, verbiage is coming around. They're talking about the right things, but there's this focus on the white working class voter that voted for Obama and then went to Trump. And from what this guy criticizes, and he's this is a fellow named Steve Phillips. He wrote a book about that demographic shift that we were talking about earlier. How whites are essentially going to be a minority in this country in a few years, which probably a large part of the whole Trump phenomenon, actually. But he takes issue with this idea that you have to get white centrists back into the fold. And for your part, what do we think? I think it's a huge mistake to not embrace multiculturalism. And I've even, kind of taken issue with Bernie Sanders about this sometimes, where there's this huge emphasis on reaching out to those people who feel left behind while ignoring the fact that, a large part is not only were so many, Hispanic and black voters disenfranchised last year, but a lot of them just didn't vote because, what was it in it for them? I mean, both Trump and Clinton had some pretty poor records on race issues. So
let me jump in for a second. There's been a couple studies based on this. One of the main studies, well, just to put context out there, 9% of registered Democrats voted for Trump this year. 9%. And a plurality of black women and black people did vote for Hillary Clinton. A majority of Latinos and other minorities did vote for Hillary Clinton. That's context. This is other context. When it comes to veterans in the Rust Belt states, when it came to the rhetoric about Russia and came to the rhetoric about bombings and wars, a lot of those veterans turned to Trump because Trump sounded like during the primary that he was going to be more of an isolationist, that he wasn't even though he said horrific things like, we're going to bomb the families of terrorists, which he has been doing in overwhelming numbers. Even though he said outrageous, horrendous things, her record on the Patriot Act, her record on the war in Iraq, people took into account. Also, on top of the fact that a lot of those millennials and color and demographics kids of millennials and minorities, remember what they saw. They saw the DNC rig the primary against Bernie Sanders. They saw the DNC, okay, I shouldn't say rigged, was biased towards the establishment. And then you want to turn around after snubbing your base and say, bow your head because we need you to vote for Hillary because she's not as bad as Trump. Which in context, they are right. She was not as bad as Trump. You just spat in the face of your own base, and then you want your own base to support you. If someone spits in my face and then asks for money in my vote, I'm going to say very politely, screw yourself. On top of the fact that her record when it comes to women, did she, when she was one of the heads of Walmart, fight for Walmart employees to get a living wage or to unionize, or that the women there should be? She fought for the women of Walmart to be promoted as well, but did she fight for them to get equal pay? No, she did not do it. Her record on calling black children super predators in the 90s and fighting for the crime bill. Like, her record on minority issues, when it comes to the veterans, when it comes to her record in general, people did not like. And since they did not like, they are not obligated to vote for someone who does not, in their rhetoric, atone for those issues.
So, I guess, like, kind of looping back to, like, really get, like, talking about, like, that demographic change and stuff. Like, how do you feel about, like, their strategy right now in that context, where they're still, like, trying to pull voters off of Trump with this economic platform, but maybe not investing those same resources in? And what this author posits, it's like, you need to recreate the Obama coalition with, like, white progressives, groups of color, oppressed groups, but at the same time, they have not really, the Democratic Party has not been calling out the fact that their votes are being suppressed and disenfranchised.
I can tell you, here's the thing. During the primary, Chuck Schumer, one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, said, for every blue collar worker that we lose in the city, we'll pick up a white suburban person in Philadelphia, and you can recycle that all over the country. How did that work out? It was garbage. That's how it worked out. And also, when people say you either have to fight for the poor, disenfranchised white people, or the minority, or the minority vote, no, you don't. It's a straw man argument. You want to know why? Because, like I said before, 50% of the country makes less than $30,000 a year. For those who do not understand what that means 50% of the country makes less than $12 an hour. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? In the majority of those people who in the majority of that selection under that 50% are women. How do you help those people? You raise the minimum wage. Yeah.
We're all in that bracket.
No. Right. I was like, no. But I'm saying, you raise the minimum wage. You tax the rich and make them pay their fair share. You do not cut programs like Meals on Wheels or SNAP programs. You do not demonize people because they're trying to make a living when they're working 40 hours a week at one job. They're working 25 to 30 hours a week at a part-time job just to make ends meet, when the average rent of a single apartment is like $17 to $20 an hour in every state. In every state. So again, like the idea that you have to either court the white working class or the minority, it's absolutely garbage when they're both in the same boat. When they're both in the same boat, you don't have to work that hard. You say, yo, automation is taking away a lot of factory jobs. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to help you. We're going to not burden you with student loan debt. We're not going to burden you with student loan debt because you're trying to make a better life. What we'll do, we're going to help you. We're going to fix that by giving you free college and tuition. We're going to help you by the number one thing that hurts most Americans is medical expenses, medical bills. How are we going to help you with that? We're gonna fight for universal health care, so now you don't have to be bothered with that. Now, since we're doing universal health care that the government is taking care of, your employer now doesn't have to cover you on their biggest expenses, which is expenditure, which is health insurance. They can now put that money into your pocket now, because that was coming out of your paycheck.
And you know, like I agree. You know, in a sense, like, you know, I think kind of both sides, both like this Steve Phillips and the Democratic Party are kind of missing the mark with this, in the sense that, you know, I think that's definitely a fair criticism of the Democratic Party, that, you know, it's not an either or proposition. And, you know, particularly, I think what gets conflated is that, you know, there are a lot of like hardcore people who voted for Trump because they heard the dog whistle. But there are a lot of people who voted because, I mean, they
thought they were going to get their jobs back. They thought that people were going to. Okay, you cannot fight for TPP at the same time when your base hates TPP.
Yeah.
You cannot at the one hand say that the rich is being oppressed and hated on when the rich do not pay their fair share of taxes.
Yeah,
like,
but what I'm worried about is, like, you know, and you saw this in the 90s with the Clinton campaign, where he adopted kind of a softer form of dog whistle politics. Oh, I'm gonna be tough on crime, X, Y, and Z. So I'm worried they're gonna do this sort of thing where they're going to run from the economic middle, but say, like, ignore issues like immigration and you know, Black Lives Matter. You already see this a little bit where they're saying, oh, we're not going to talk about abortion as much. So
okay, no, here's the thing. Yeah. Here's the thing. There are fundamental social issues that Democrats and Republicans and Libertarians are not going to agree on. We understand that. We get that. But when you fight for people's civil liberties being the fact that I want to ingest something that is my human right to do so, and the fact that I can do that with cigarettes, alcohol, and opiates, but I can't do it with marijuana makes no logical sense. The fact that the war on drug, I was like, Libertarians and Republicans understand this. The war on drugs has cost us money, and we have not fixed it over 40, 50 years, 60 years. We are wasting money. The F-13, F-14 wastes $1.7 trillion, and it has not been used once in combat. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Socialist, whatever. Wasting money that's coming out of our pockets is unacceptable. So how do you get those Trump voters or those flip-flop voters? You run on the issues that affect them. And what's affecting them? The fact that 30,000 cities in the United States do not have clean drinking water. What affects them? The fact that a majority of them have to choose between either paying for medication or paying for groceries because they don't make enough money to get both. What affects them? The fact that the roads and bridges that they go on are crumbling at the seams, and our infrastructure is the grade D+. What affects them? The fact that if one of them that somebody in their family was to get sick, that they could go bankrupt trying to pay for their hospital bills. That affects everyone. It does not matter what color you are. It does not matter your sexual orientation. It does not matter your sexual identity. That affects everyone. What affects everyone? The fact that in majority of states, I need to be making $17, $18, $19 an hour to pay for a one-bedroom apartment. In most jobs, pay $9 an hour or $10 an hour. I don't even think most jobs pay that now because federal minimum wage is what?
It's still $7.25.
Still $7.25.
Yeah.
So, how do you get those voters? You speak to their issues. You speak to issues that affect everyone. And then when you say Black Lives Matter, criminal justice reform is coming, and that when you see police brutality, we will handle it. We're going to stop the war on drugs because it's costing us $1 trillion. You want freedom and equality to smoke marijuana? We're going to legalize it and regulate it just like we do tobacco and alcohol and opiates.
And that requires Democrats to speak in the language of common sense, which a couple of them might know how to do that. But
Politicians speaking common sense?
What?
Oh my God.
Yes.
I don't understand. I don't understand that at all. Like,
Common sense ain't too common in Congress. That's for sure.
Man, what are you? Say that one more time.
Common sense ain't so common in Congress.
We need to
Yeah.
put that.
That's some uncommon sense.
We need to put
Yeah,
that
yeah.
on a shirt.
Yeah,
Like, we
yeah,
need
yeah.
to sell that one.
There you go. Yeah.
we can't make money.
But again, to speak on a majority of those issues when it comes to immigration, make sure that you tell those who may have a problem with immigration, you do realize that if a lot of these immigrants leave this country, you won't have food.
Yeah,
Because the majority of farms that's in the South and in California and on the West Coast those jobs are done by immigrants. You want to know how important immigrants are? Our president is shipping more immigrants over to make his hotels in New York and in other cities. That's how you disarm that argument. Our president is using immigrant labor right now.
And just to add like some hard numbers to that, like I was talking about this a couple weeks ago, but keep in mind, talk is cheap, and there's a lot of Democrats out there who will talk about like standing with immigrants, but like there was recently basically a vote on increasing funding for DHS, which includes ICE. And only 32 Democrats voted against it. Yeah. So, like it's got to be a matter of principle and not just. Again, I think if there's been any recipient of that we're better than the Republicans rhetoric, it's been like disenfranchised non-white populations in this country, and like they've seen that kind of thing for decades. It's like you get a slightly better deal than the Republicans.
Think about this. You also have to speak to the issues of this fact as well. This generation right now makes 20% less than the generation before us. This generation right now has more debt on it than the previous generation. This generation right now, and when it comes to not just millennials, but all of the disenfranchised people, automation is taking people's jobs. You have robots taking people's jobs that usually people would do, but also you have corporations that are not paying their workers a fair wage. And when people rise up against it, they get knocked down, and the representatives that's supposed to represent them are saying, well, I got my paycheck, so hey, you're just going to deal with it. Yeah. That's how not only do you lose those swing voters, you lose your base. And that's how you lose and continue to lose elections. And especially speaking to ICE, because there was a story that happened a couple months ago where ICE went to a high school in Chicago to get a child, to get like a you heard about that story?
Yeah,
a 13
that was messed up.
Like, there are certain things that are just literally insane. ICE coming to a school to get a immigrant child that was born or was born on a ship or whatever, anchor baby, whatever, and then came here or was born here 2 years later or something, or was 2 years old when they came here. Going after children like that or people like that makes no logical sense. That's a waste of our money. Again, the Democratic Party and representatives need to understand, when ICE or the police department or other organizations that's spending taxpayers' money to do garbage is wasting our money. Mm-hmm. And when you are wasting, if you don't like when people waste $5 of yours, how do you think the American people feel when you're wasting trillions
of dollars?
Trillions of theirs. Like it makes no logical sense, and you fight on those issues. That's how you fight. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I gotta go.
All right,
I love y'all.
Yeah.
But
sorry,
we'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that on another day.
Yeah.
I'll holler at y'all. Peace.
All right. See you, Lawrence. Thanks again for coming on the show. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, kind of like, capping off on that, it's when we talk about the Democrats giving people something to vote for rather than just something to vote against, they need to understand that any strategy that they have has to be about, okay, if they want to be the resistance, they need to actually take it on as a role they're participating in. All I've seen from a lot of the Democrats is, some very weak sauce, occasional critiques of the administration, mostly talking about the Russiagate scandal, which, while not entirely weightless, should not be the be-all, end-all of discussion about Trump, his administration, and their policies. Ralph Nader recently did an interview with The Intercept, talking about just how dysfunctional the party is, to the fact that we are facing the most amoral and craven Republican Party in history. And the Democrats can do barely anything to stop it. And in a lot of cases, as we've reported, have colluded with it. Not only this ICE vote, they also collaborated to increase defense spending even higher than what Donald Trump requested. And there was also that recent vote over the BDS movement, where, and granted, the Democrats did respond to some public pressure from that, and they're reconsidering the bill. But it's still alarming that their baseline is, let's triangulate, let's see how far we can move to attract these white centrists or poor whites,
all while focusing on the issue that involves us not at all.
Yes, you're talking about Russia.
Yeah, it's and that in itself is a triangulated move, focusing completely on the Russiagate situation instead of focusing on the healthcare fight or focusing on the continuing battle for net neutrality. It's 2017. We've done this 3 times. Why are we still doing it?
Oh yeah. And a quick update on that. I know Lawrence mentioned earlier there hasn't been a vote on that yet, but it is still
the legislation that was talked about earlier was the decision to allow your ISP to sell your information for without your consent or knowledge.
So
that was the previous. That was what was brought up previously. Which, by the way, your ISP can sell your personal information for literally nothing without your knowledge or consent. Congratulations. It's this kind of. I feel like they think they're being surgical, but they're being surgical in a way that is counterintuitive to any kind of liberal politics. As like, and this is something I'm going to toss all the way back to Debbie Stabenow, even like if she gets primaried.
Yeah.
Currently, there's no one. There's no talk about her being primaried beforehand, but if she gets primaried, what's going to happen is the primary, even if Debbie Stabenow wins the primary will pull them to the left, and then we're going to, this is the thing I am absolutely afraid to see, because we see it over and over and over and over and over again. The primary pulls the party left, but as soon as the general comes, they run straight to the right. They run to the right, they run to the right, they run to the right, because that's where the center is. It's a false center, because we don't take a look at where we stand globally within a lot of our domestic policy. We don't look at, like, we have this kind of idea as a culture in our head that we don't have to compare ourselves to anybody else because we are the best, and that gets like that gets fed to us through our media, that gets fed to us like, I believe that America was the best country all the time forever when I was a kid. Why? Because that's everything I heard about America. Like, I didn't hear about Europe. When I heard about Europe, it was like, oh, it's Europe, it's nice, but nobody ever talks about it.
There's an Eiffel Tower there. It looks kind of funny, and there's a big clock in London.
It's like they've got the crown jewels in London. They've got some pretty dope castles in Germany, and Paris has that Eiffel Tower there. Italy has a tower that leans a little bit.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but when it comes to and this is a case against, or this is a case to make the voter more informed, we do need to talk about where we stand globally a lot more, because that would, like, I feel like that would help the sleeping 54% of America that doesn't vote at all to go, oh yeah, wow, we could have it way better, especially if, we did these things.
Yeah.
Like, my life could actually be better. It's about getting those people to care. And, people are free not to care. People are free not to vote. Like, but at the same time, when we're talking about the quote-unquote true democracy of the world, we have one of the lowest voter turnouts in our elections globally.
Yeah.
We have a party that's trying to pinpoint and triangulate the exact spots they need to hit in our demographics in order to win, when they're not looking at America what it is meant to be, which is a melting pot of those demographics. Instead of looking at the overall big picture of America, they're targeting social issues within specific demographic groups.
And it's, to kind of build on that too, like, it needs to be something aspirational, something that, a majority of Americans can get behind. And keep about, like, the center, if it really still exists, is a heck of a lot more progressive than the center. The center, whatever center that the Democrats are imagining.
The center is left of the Democrats.
Yes, yeah.
Bernie Sanders globally is a complete and utter centrist.
Yeah.
And I will hammer that home for forever. He is the most popular senator. He's the most popular politician in America. Globally, Bernie Sanders lands smack dab in the middle.
And, I think, like, Chris Hedges has this quote that I remember. Like, Bill Clinton did the ingenious thing of turning the Democratic Party into the Republicans and making the Republicans go so far right that they went insane. And, not to, like, that's, not to offend anybody listening who might be more on the right. We're talking more about, like,
we're talking about your party. We're talking about your party heads.
Yeah.
We're talking about your party heads.
Yeah. The type of people who took, fringe theories of groups like, the John Birch Society, who are essentially just, like, these complete, like, absolute, like, no state anarchists, who essentially view the role of the state to do little else but just protect people and property, which, you know, from you know, a idealistic perspective, if everyone's a perfect actor, oh yeah, I suppose that works. But when there are no safeguards in there to protect consumers or help improve the lives of the disenfranchised.
Oh no, then the government becomes the agent of protecting citizens and property. It just happens to be citizens and the property of their corporate overlords.
Yeah,
which is everything because they own everything.
Yeah. And usually property is valued over citizens. You know, this,
Yep.
I can speak to this as somebody who's like, you know, I was at Standing Rock, and in that particular situation, government valued their a corporation that the government, no, a corporation coerced the government into taking the stance that the property of that corporation was more important than the citizens of the government. And that only happens when you have unrestricted control and unrestricted lack of control and oversight of these companies. And you can't do what the Democrats have been doing since the Clinton administration, which is to say, we're going to follow that deregulation playbook. We're just going to be not as hard line about it as the Republicans.
We're going to follow the deregulation playbook, but it's okay because we like the gays.
Hey, yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, maybe switch up topics a little bit. I've got some good news. So it's
good news is always good.
So anyway, you're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
What?
It may not be apparent, but hunger is a rather prominent issue amongst the student body of Western. The Invisible Need Project is a multifaceted initiative that's aimed to help struggling students. Every 2 weeks, generous people donate their food to the pantry located in the Fawn Student Service buildings or other drop-off locations. All you need to do is grab a reusable bag and grab whatever food you need to help sustain yourself. If anyone's unsure when their next meal will be, or if you have a little extra food you'd be willing to donate, the food pantry is your place. If you're looking to help donate, become a volunteer, or just learn more, call 269-387-4742 or email dosa-inp@wmich.edu for details.
This is an open slot in the wider clock and could be filled with an underwriting announcement for your local Kalamazoo business. For more information, please visit widerfm.org and head to the support page.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. So, I want to talk a little bit about some good local news. Just kind of get us out of these bleak strategic topics, the concern of a Kid Rock as president, and all of the other terrifying news stories that are going on right now.
Actually, if Kid Rock wound up becoming president, honestly, I think that would make a great movie.
If I'm sorry, what? If
Kid Rock actually, continued a political career past beating Debbie Stabenow, which is a complete and total possibility.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So this ties into what we were just talking about with kind of like philosophically, what is the role of the state and how should they help out? When I was growing up, and just to kind of speak towards the whole welfare queen narrative, we were talking a little bit about dog whistle politics on the way here. My family subsisted on EBT and food stamps intermittently as I was growing up, and both of my parents worked, by the way, full time. Sometimes, a lot of times in this country, particularly looking at jobs like Walmart, who are notorious for doing this, they essentially are able to pay their employees so little that the government, our tax money, subsidizes their workforce by giving them food stamps instead of Walmart just giving them enough money to get groceries. So that's the context, but the good news here, so there's a headline from MLive, published on August 1st, and it says bridge card users get twice the fruit and veggies with new program. This is written by Al Jones, and it's geared at increasing low-income families' access to healthier food. It's going to start today, on August 1st, at 3 supermarkets here in Kalamazoo. And that's the locations include the PFC Natural Grocery and Deli. That's the organic food store over on Harrison Street. And if you have a bridge card, you will get a voucher in the form of a receipt that matches the amount of fruit and vegetables you can purchase using your bridge card for up to $20 a day. And they can use that voucher to buy more produce on a return trip to the supermarket. So that essentially doubles the amount of fruit and vegetables that they can use. And there's 2 other places that are doing this, and that includes Park Street Market over on Park Street. That's the place right over by Park Trades and the Family Dollar and the Little Caesars. And Town and Country down in our old neighborhood. That's right down by
Alcott and Portage.
Yep. Alcott. Oh yeah,
It's Alcott and Portage.
Alcott and Portage. That's right. And yeah, right by Washington Writers Academy. So, the program is called Double Up Food Bucks, and
It's not Alcott. Excuse me. It's Reed.
Yeah, it's Reed. That's right. Yeah,
my mistake.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this is actually some really good news, and it's good to see, particularly, in a time where we're facing, like, we have an administration in there that is literally seeking to, they just want to obliterate all government programs. And this is something that I know a lot of local activists have been fighting for a while. This has happened with great success in a lot of other areas of the country, and it solves some really, core problems with the way that low-income people have to budget their groceries.
I mean, I believe it's also a good way to tackle a health issue without actually running the attack on the healthcare front. And part of the healthcare battle is preventative maintenance and preventative medicine. And living healthier lives, getting out and moving more, but also eating a more balanced diet. People typically on food stamps, bridge card, EBT, you have to make throughout college, I have signed up and benefited from the EBT program as well. And I had to live off that $200 every month. In order to do that, I had to buy a lot of prepackaged food. I had to buy a lot of stuff that would keep for a long time. I bought a couple meals. No, I bought some ingredients in order to make a couple meals that were well balanced and healthy, but the majority of my food was in packages full of preservatives and full of salt and full of sugar. And even though making my own food is cheaper, if I'm making my own food that is the same quality of food that I would get at a fast food restaurant, I'm not being healthier. When families have to stretch that food budget for as long as possible to hit the next point, you can't expect them to also eat healthy, because that's what a lot of these people use it for, is for subsistence living. It's not a tool to change your dietary habits. I think that this program that but rather rewards the purchase of fresh fruits and vegetables, which on hand, overall, cost more, last shorter amount of time, and can ultimately be wasted if parents get busy working their two jobs. Working. It's like, I'll forget that I buy food all the time. It's like, oh wait, I had this. Oh,
a lot of people who criticize food benefit programs from the outside, there's two key factors that go into it. And I maybe it was Bernie who said this, but being poor is expensive.
Being poor is that's a point that a lot of people make, and honestly, it's a point that people need to jump on more and more and more and more, especially if you're talking to a fiscally conservative crowd, is that being poor is so expensive.
So let's just mention, you've got two things if you're poor. You traditionally have, a money deficit, obviously, and a time deficit, because you are out there working constantly in order to get enough money to get by and support your family. And like Luke said, apply that to a family of four, and they basically have to run the same metrics. Oh, it would be nice if they could, go out and get healthy foods, but it requires more prep time and it requires more money, because fresh produce is more expensive than, grocery items with preservatives, things that can keep for a long time, things that are filling. And so, the necessity of a program like this is so integral, and it's why obesity rates among low-income people are so stark and so alarming, because the food that they typically have access to is not as healthy and can lead to...
It's cheap, it's fast, and it gets you out the door so you can keep working.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it's utterly ridiculous, and it's completely utterly ridiculous to continue to add this food assistance programs to the quote-unquote the false welfare queen narrative of people abusing the welfare system. Yes, they're when you look at any system whatsoever, anywhere, you're going to find people who game the system in order to make it work for their advantage. I mean, the Republicans have already done it with our voting system. But you can't overlook what you can't do is overlook the fact that overall food assistance programs like this will have an overall positive impact in both the health and budgets of family. Now, I still think that there's an argument to be made that this shouldn't be a concern for either the state or the companies that are participating in this program, but at the same time, we as a culture, since we haven't updated our minimum wage or our federal minimum wage for decades, and because of that, state minimum wages are still lagging woefully behind. If people don't make the money they need to buy food in order to actually live healthy, productive lives, then they're not going to. They're going to live out subsistence lives, which, as a whole, are shorter than balanced, healthy lives. And that plays itself out overall when you take a look at the overall financial demographics of America. Mm-hmm. So, I love this program. It's a great program.
Yeah.
I wish that the government didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we all do. And I think, like, we're going to keep pushing for, there's been a big push in the area for neighborhood gardens.
Oh, yeah.
And if everybody made a living wage, we wouldn't have to worry about...
We could talk about community gardens and being able to provide fresh fruits and vegetables and eliminating food deserts, because a living wage means that people have the time to devote to neighborhood gardens and helping end local food deserts by helping by putting time into community gardens and putting time into urban farming, which is something like I really wish that I could go into how amazing I think urban farming is, and how amazing I think that whole section of industry gets really no attention from either government not subsidiaries. What am I thinking of the word? It doesn't get any help. Urban farming doesn't really get any help from government subsidies. Urban farming really just kind of flies under the radar, and I think that's astounding, especially since urban farming has been pioneered and pushed by our
neighborhood associations
okay, I might be completely wrong, but from what I've seen, from what I've been exposed to, the majority of urban farmers are black.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, especially here in Kalamazoo, and a lot of that movement came out of Detroit too.
Yep.
So, I think there's.
Hey, Michiganders, if you're like sitting around a table trying to figure out something awesome to say about Detroit, there it is. There's one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean that again, that kind of ties into how Detroit's pretty fascinating, like how they dealt with themselves as a post-industrial city. Of course, some corporate interests are getting their claws back into the city in a big way. Now that's a whole another bucket of grease. We're not necessarily going to get into it right now. Yeah, so that's a positive thing, I think, for the city, and I'm glad to see that these stores are participating in it. And if you got EBT and you want some extra fresh produce for your bang for your buck, there you go.
I mean, it is cherry season right now, and those things are delicious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, we got about 10 minutes left. Do we want to hit real quickly? So this article that you just shot me, did you want to talk about it at all?
Oh, let's talk about it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't actually read it. All I really read was the headline. I'm gonna like push that out right now. Literally saw this on Reddit 15 minutes ago. The headline was amazing. It's just it really just kind of highlights exactly how ridiculous the Russiagate deal is. Rex Tillerson rejects $80 million from Congress to fight Russian propaganda because it would anger Moscow. It's on Newsweek, posted today at noon, so it's just over 6 hours old. It's Rex Tillerson essentially refusing to refute state propaganda from foreign countries with with facts. I mean, some people will see it as state propaganda from the United States, but at the same time, he's not spending any of the money that Congress gave him.
Yeah. I was going to, we got really deep into the discussion earlier, but I was going to bring up a similar article that was kind of criticizing the recent sanctions that got brought up. And essentially talking about how, and this was H.R. 3364, Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, that targeted Russia, Iran, and
North Korea.
So the EU, European Union, is actually very upset about this because a lot of their energy, and it's a pipeline, so we don't like oil, but at the same time, a lot of their natural gas comes from Russia. I'm sorry, not oil, natural gas. And what the sanctions essentially do is make it so they can't get this cheaper natural gas from Russia, but they can buy it at more higher prices from the United States. Now, separating the fact that we're talking about natural gas here, this particular kind of sanction, which is causing a lot of political fallout with people who are our allies, countries like Germany, France, etc. And even France came out pretty strongly against the sanctions, and they were also potentially targeted by Russian hackers in the recent election. So, it's really weird to me because I don't know exactly where I stand on this, because I think I don't agree with the sanctions myself, and with what Rex Tillerson said about this, this $80 million. Is that their attempt to kind of tone things down? Because let's be frank,
it's the how does Russia feel about us balancing act.
Yes, exactly. And I think what everyone needs to keep in sight is the question should not be because there are still a lot of people on the far, the alt-right, and a lot of people on the far left who say there's absolutely no validity to the Russiagate scandal. And I think if you look into it, it was progression. The goalposts were kind of moved a couple of times, but there is substance to it. And the question really needs to be not, is the narrative true? It's what is the power establishment trying to use this narrative for? And what we really need to look at is, what is the state of relations between the United States and Russia? Because, let's be frank, they're the two biggest nuclear superpowers in the world, and we do not want these two nations to be at odds with each other. Now, at the same time, that is very interesting that this $80 million to fight Russian propaganda, that would be the thing that the Trump administration would take a firm stance on. Sanctions are okay, but, no, we got to keep letting Russian propaganda.
It just continues to play into the whole corporatist aspect. Can the United States make money off of this? Then it's okay.
Yeah.
Then it's okay. Oh, wait, we have to spend money? We have to spend money to help, counter-inform or contextualize or actually present facts against propaganda, against negative propaganda, we don't need to do that. Like the whole Russian hacking thing is just it's a ruse. It's a hoax. It's a political move by Democrats because they hate they still have sour grapes that they lost the election. My sour grapes aren't there.
I think it's being deeply exaggerated.
Oh, absolutely.
But not necessarily.
But we can tie that into really quickly. The one of the other articles that we brought up for today's show is about voting machine hacking.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
how they're totally hack proof. That's wrong.
That is wrong.
That's wrong. Apparently, with some freeware, with a Microsoft tablet and some freeware and a Wi-Fi connection, which everywhere has a Wi-Fi connection nowadays, you can just search for open ports. And oh, by the way, voting machines have them, and you can totally mess with them through a remote.
It's very easy to do.
It's so the article's not even 5 paragraphs long. It just drops the name. It drops the name of some freeware, exactly how it works, and how these hackers at DEF CON 25 gained access to voting machines that were used in the election, where I believe it was held in Nevada. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was held in Nevada. The DEF CON, for those who don't know, is an annual convention and gathering of hackers.
And over in Vegas.
Yeah, over in Vegas. Hackers, cybersecurity folk. It's the big meeting of the minds. Like, it's, if you're concerned about cybersecurity, that's the place you need to look at when cybersecurity is being brought up. And at DEF CON 25, they brought in voting machines that were used in Arizona's precincts, in the precinct that the convention is hosted in. And yeah, no, they're totally hack proof. Wrong.
Let me read a little bit from the article. Harry Hursty, co-founder of Nordic Innovation Labs, know that many voting machines are supposed to have tamper-evident mechanisms on them that aim to help guarantee the integrity of a system. The premise of a tamper-evident seal is that it shows that the device has not been opened or altered. Hursty noted that with connected devices, the tamper-evident seal no longer matters much. However, he also suggested that voters check voting machines to see if the seal is intact before casting votes. While zero-day and exotic attacks are interesting, Hursty said that hackers aren't always looking for an elegant way to break into a device. They're just looking for a way in. The article actually does mention Russiagate and kind of formulates like, this is why we're looking into this. And I think this has actually been a good thing. And of all the things, I would say keep an open mind. There's still not any direct evidence that the initial DNC hack was from a Russian source. And there's actually been some interesting evidence come up recently that pointing to that it was likely downloaded onto a flash drive on site. But that being said, it is good that, for any reason, we're finally taking a hard look at voting machines. Most Western modernized country do not allow for electronic voting machines. It's all hand-counted paper ballots. And, that needs to be the same way here because, you got to realize these machines are vulnerable. There have been many cases sent way before Russiagate where there has been a lot of very substantial evidence for this kind of tampering. And Brandon, when people talk about that kind of election fraud, a lot of people dismiss it as conspiratorial bunk.
Yeah, it sounds like something out of a freaking spy novel. Really, when you talk about it, people hacking voting machines in order to falsify results, it sounds fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like to your normal everyday person, the fact that it's a possibility should still kind of sit uneasy with people. The likelihood of it happening is still kind of like we haven't found anything, so so far, the evidence of it happening is still pretty near zero. But at the same time, we have to realize that, like, as much of a technophile as I am, there is always reason to question and criticize and take hard looks at the technology we want to put into place to do things for us before we actually do it. Voting machines is the smallest example that I have. I'm with my buddy Elon Musk on AI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. I think that about wraps up the show. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Lawrence and Luke for coming in. That was a very lively panel today. Please join us every Wednesday from 5 to 7. Hoodrat Strategist radio program, your only source for political revolution. Keep your dial locked for more wider, and keep fighting for that revolution solution. Y'all have a great evening.